All right, good morning, y'all. It's January 31st, about 8:30 in the morning. Today's video is inspired by a comment I got under a video I did a few days ago, about 4 days ago, called Under the Hunger Spell. Peanut butter pancakes. She was asking about fasting, sharing a little bit about her diet and her experiences trying to get into fasting, and was asking for some advice. And so I asked her, like I said, the video's Under the Hunger Spell. If you want to read the comments, they are of us going back and forth. Eventually asked her if I could make a video on this to speak a little more in detail so I don't have to type it all. But yeah, she was cool with it. She's actually been commenting under my dad's channels, his two channels being Richard Swink and Embodied Souls. She's had the courage to um, speak out of her experiences, to share her story, to speak out about the childhood trauma and abuse she had to go through. Her and her husband, I believe it's her and her husband, um, and being very open and honest. And yeah, so my dad made a video on her story and commentated along the way and shared his insights on it. And a very good video. I'm not sure which channel it's on. It's either Richard Swink or Embodied Souls. Very good video. Actually, a handful of people have been sharing their stories, and my dad's been making videos on them. So, um, just I highly appreciate it, Peanut Butter Pancakes, for having the courage to speak out and share. Um, because it gave me the courage to dig a little deeper into my own childhood trauma. Actually, yesterday I made a video. I didn't post it yet, but I made a video on my experiences growing up. Um, just a just a broad overview of my upbringing and sort of some of the family dynamic along the way. So yeah, those videos, Joshua S. John sharing his videos, and my dad sharing the stories of people commenting and asking him to make a video on their stories have have inspired me to dig a little deeper into my own. So I appreciate it for everyone who has done that, especially Peanut Butter Pancakes, as she continues to comment on our videos and share more of her story of what comes up as she's speaking out about these things. More is coming up to be acknowledged, and so she continues sharing. And on my videos, she has been reaching out to me in a way of asking for advice on health in the sense of food and diet. So I'll be reading our comments and um, commentating along the way. Now, with this being about fasting, I do highly recommend watching my two videos. It's called The Realist Talk on Fasting, I believe. Let me check. I have my YouTube pulled up right now. So if you go to my channel, you press the videos tab, and on the videos tab you have the three options of latest, popular, or oldest. If you select oldest, these are the first two videos I made on fasting, and they're called The Realist Talk on Fasting Part 1 and Part 2. Highly recommend those videos. They go more into the science of it all. Nothing technical, no formulas, no mathematical compounds and things like that. It's just it's very simple. It's getting past all the devil in the details and just going to the basic questions of it all. And so I highly recommend checking out those 2 videos. I might even do a video watching that, doing an overview on that video and speaking even a little deeper, because those videos were actually from 6 months ago, which a lot has transpired in these 6 months. So I'm thinking about doing an overview of facing my camera towards the video and pausing and commentating along the way. So yeah, let's get back to these comments. All right, so peanut butter pancakes. Again, I appreciate you commenting. This helps me be able to articulate these thoughts in my head, has me thinking in different ways, and again, just very inspiring for you to speak out on these things. Which, what has happened? Where are all the replies? Give it a minute. It's acting a little funky. How great I felt, and like all my comments were gone. Let's see. Okay, cool. So, but yeah, thanks again, peanut butter pancakes. You know, these open and honest conversations facilitate a lot of healing, as it allows us to think deeper and yeah, it helps us think deeper. Why isn't my computer? Okay, this thing is so touchy. Alright, so starting with peanut butter pancakes. She goes, "Good video. Makes me feel less bad that I'm not a superstar at this. I've been feeling a lot of shame around not being able to beat this hunger. I've been trying to fast, but the hunger in my stomach is so bad. I have to eat something small once a day. I've tried going a few days without food and I've been unsuccessful each time. I end up craving. I was trying to just get by on pumpkin seeds to start off. Do you have any tips on how to really start fasting for real? And then what the next transitions would be, etc. I'm very new at this, so I will need the basics. I want to beat this drug addiction we call food. I just don't know how, and the more I fail, the more shame I feel. Also, I see what you mean about just the act of chewing on something relieves the craving, because as soon as I started chewing on a few pumpkin seeds, it's like that craving and hunger pain went away." And yeah, you know, a lot of what she said in there, I covered in my Under the Hunger Spell video of, like, you know, having those cravings, having those withdrawals, and as soon as I put having that urge to consume, and as soon as I put the first bite in my mouth, it just goes away, and it's like, what the fuck? It's very strange. But yeah, I respond, "Appreciate the comment, Angel. I view the body as being autonomous, a complete self-regulating, self-nourishing, and self-sustaining system. That's only when the body, mind, and spirit are in alignment. Our body, because of how out of alignment we are, because of how diminished we are, because of the years of going against our biological functioning, our body is no longer self-sustaining. It's just in survival. So one thing to realize is that we have been going against our biological functioning every day, multiple times a day, our entire lives. We have diminished our body's capabilities to function autonomously, therefore naturally and optimally. We have acquired a habit, a subsequent need. We've taught our body that it does not need to make its own nutrients or chemicals because of ingesting that using external resources. A couple examples, in case you've never heard about this, is doctors will tell a patient to stop eating cholesterol and not to worry because the body will start producing its own cholesterol over time. Another one is that our body produces its own creatine, but as soon as someone starts taking creatine externally, the body will stop making its own, even if that external resource is artificial and toxic, because it copies the compound structure, right? So, but it's artificial. It comes with it's man-made. You know, it's not coming from ourselves. It's not natural. Um, so, but yeah, that's our body makes everything it needs. Our mind is the pharmacy, and our body lets our mind know what it needs, and our mind will make it all. I swear the pharmaceutical industry, just like everything with technology, everything's copied off of the human structure, and cameras are copied from the human structure. Everything, the whole, even the layouts of cities are copied from the human anatomy, but they can't replicate it to the point where it is as powerful as us. See, we don't see ourselves as powerful because we've been diminishing our potential, diminishing our capabilities, diminishing our power from day one, from living in abusive and toxic systems. You know, we've been living in survival and under stress, as well as willfully poisoning and intoxicating ourselves, putting chemicals, toxins, and poisons in our bodies. All of this, and it has just made us so fucking weak. It has dumbed us down. As we have not evolved, but we've devolved. You know, majorly. We see our lives as meaningless, and we see ourselves as powerless because of just how powerless we've become because of all the toxicity and poison and abuse, which is all intentional. So, fasting is great. It's awesome. I mean, fasting is amazing. It's our natural. It's our natural state of being. It's a state of being we should be in, 24 fucking 7. Like, there's no need for food, none at all. Food is a stimulation. It's not a nourishment. Um, yeah, that's our natural. That's our natural state of being, is being in a fasted state. Um, But yeah, fasting is great, but I had to stop because I needed to heal a lot mentally and emotionally. Food was my main drug of choice to keep my mental and emotional baggage suppressed my entire life. So there is a major emotional attachment to food I needed to face. Healing mentally and emotionally allowed me to stay consistent in eating healthier foods, whereas before healing, before facing any of my mental and emotional baggage, I would try to diet and I could never stay consistent because I had a major attachment and dependency to cooked processed food, as cooked and processed food kept me numb, it kept me distracted, it kept me from having to face the issues that were arising. Um, as it was a way of suppressing as it was a way of suppressing and distracting myself from the reality within. As I was healing mentally and emotionally, that naturally led me to start taking care of myself physically without the feeling of forcing it. Like I've said in my testimonial with 35 days of juicing, I no longer had to force myself to go to the gym. I no longer had to force myself to get up in the morning to go to work. I had energy. I was driven. I was naturally driven. I was functioning at such a higher level than before. And I even started making videos. I've been wanting to make videos for years, but I've held myself back. But as soon as I started feeling healthier, I didn't have to force these videos. I just started making them. So yeah, as I was healing mentally and emotionally, that naturally led me to start taking care of myself physically without the feeling of forcing it, which I had to say because I felt like she is forcing her fasting. I started eating whole foods, veggies and fruits and nuts in its raw state, no cooking. Those 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 fasts those fasts longer and longer to the point I'm in a fasted state more days of the week than I am. Huh. Oh, now I am on just juice. After about 90 to 120 days of only juicing, I will start implementing dry fasting and increasing the duration of those fasts longer and longer to the point I am in a fasted state more days of the week than I am eating. Just giving a bit of a background. This is not to be rushed nor forced. Anytime those cravings come in, we must sit, observe, and process them. Don't run away from the craving. Don't ignore it. Don't gaslight yourself on what you're really feeling by saying, for example, like me when I was on juice, I would be like, well, I'm I'm no longer poisoning myself every day. I'm putting clean fuel into my system. Why do I feel sick? Why do I feel, which were just withdrawals and detox symptoms. But I would tell myself, well, I got a cleaner fuel in my system. I have no reason to feel bad. And so I would gaslight myself and say, no, I feel good. No, I'm just dealing with a craving, and I just need to be a man and push through it rather than sitting with it, rather than observing it for exactly for what it is, rather than observing how it's processing through my body, and which I say. So, yeah, don't run away from the craving. Don't ignore it. Don't gaslight yourself on what you're really feeling. Don't distract yourself from what you're feeling by going and working out and going for a walk. See, when we start feeling when we start feeling uneasy, when we start feeling emotions arise, when we start feeling boredom or questioning our existence, we don't want to sit with that. We think that, oh, well, I need to do something. I need to go and do something. And um, I was talking to this girl the other day, and she's like, well, I think working out is healthy. I think working out is good. And I said, yeah, it is, but not when every single time you're dealing with an emotion or feeling uneasy, and so you go to the gym for 2 to 3 hours and to distract yourself from those emotions. You totally revert um, away from what needs to be dealt with. So, and that's the thing. Working out can become an addiction because it's something. It's a stimulation. It makes you feel good. It makes you forget about everything else. And that's the whole thing. Where you're not even going for a walk can be a distraction. Going for walks are healthy, but um, but the thing is being able to, when those emotions arise, it's why are you going for a walk? Are you running away from something? Were you feeling uneasy? Were you feeling lazy? Were you feeling it's being able to discern whether you're being lazy or whether you're running away from something. You know, whether um, if you're trying to distract yourself, if you're trying to find joy in life, right? Um, so so yeah, don't gaslight yourself on what you're really feeling. Don't distract yourself from what you're feeling by going and doing a workout or going for a walk. Sit with it. Let it amplify. Be aware of how your body and brain react to the amplifying craving. Literally, just sit and don't identify with it, but observe it. Observe the craving coming, um, and observe it amplifying itself. Be aware, and because as that starts happening and you're just sitting with it, your body's going to be like, well, why aren't you getting up and going? And so your brain will start working, and so you have to be aware of the incoming justifications and excuses for you to justify succumbing to the desire. Because your brain will start working, because your brain's always trying to seek comfort. It's always trying to seek what's familiar. It's always trying to seek pleasure, because we've been trained that way, right? Especially having dealt with toxicity and abuse our whole lives, we've learned to cope and be dependent on our vices. So whenever we start facing the unknown and the uncomfortability, um, we've been trained to find ways to not be sitting in that. And so we immediately seek for pleasure, comfort, um, just feel good energies, right? Um, that's where we get caught up in abusive, loving relationships. That's where we get caught up in emotional attachments to poisons and toxins. Yeah, so be aware of the incoming justifications and excuses for you to justify succumbing to the desire. So after all that happens, after you observe the amplifying emotion, the amplifying desire, and the emotions that come with it, and you observe how you are quick to justify and come up with excuses to succumb to that desire, um, after that, now contemplate with the whole scenario. Ask questions. What will indulging do for me? Am I seeking a distraction? Am I seeking comfort? Am I seeking pleasure? Am I avoiding facing anxiety within? Um, you know, so you contemplate with it. Instead of being controlled by your thought process, instead of being controlled by your urges and your habits, now you're in control by not just mindlessly following your survival instincts. You're now sitting and you're observing, you're asking questions, and that's like, you can compare that to society. Why aren't you following an order? And it's like the kid with ODD who always asks questions, who won't just do what everybody else is doing. He's got to ask, well, why? Well, what is it? Why are we even doing this? Why? Uh, what is this good for? What is the purpose in this? So it's like that. We're going against our own corrupt government within our bodies, and we're asking questions now. We're no longer just mindless minions following along to get along. We're like, hold on, something doesn't seem right. What is going on? Why are we doing this? Why do you want me to do this? So yeah, you ask questions, you sit and you contemplate on everything you just observed, and then after that, you reason with it all. You you reason. So, like what I do after experiencing all of that, well, I tell myself, well, someone who loves themselves does not poison themselves or ingest toxins. And just reasoning with myself, well, food isn't even a necessity. It's just an acquired habit, you know? And what food am I craving? Is it highly processed, highly cooked, um, is it artificial? Is it, you know, so I just reason with it, and what will eating this do for me? Um, is it worth the 2-3 days of consequences for a 15-minute experience of pleasure, fleeting pleasure? Because that's what I've noticed. Food, the only pleasure is eating it, but as soon as you're done eating it, that experience is gone, and then you're just left with the consequences of going to the bathroom, of a full stomach, indigestion, heartburn, feeling heavy, feeling lethargic, feeling lazy, feeling, so, and the consequences last for 2 days, a day, 2 days, 3 days, and but the good of the experience only lasted 15 minutes. So, like, is it really worth that? What else can I do that will bring me, that has no consequences, really? Anyways, yeah, so to reason with it all. Someone who loves himself does not poison themselves or ingest toxins. Food is nothing more than an emotional suppressant. Why do I need that? If you break a fast, eat cleanly. At least eat cleanly. Um, at least don't ingest toxins and poisons. Eat raw, eat whole foods. Chew a bite thoroughly and not just wolfing it down. It's about building that discipline, to showing respect and love to ourselves. Fasting should not be forced, but happen naturally. I've noticed while being on juices, my body naturally goes into a fasted state for 16 to 20 hours before I drink juice the next day. I feel I could do a couple days or 3, but I am not going to until I get the mucoid plaque out of my body. Fasting will come naturally as I continue my healing, no force needed. You know, yeah, because just like how I couldn't stay consistent in these physical things like diet, working out, um, and other modalities. I couldn't stay consistent in them because my emotional and mental baggage was just, it was so out of whack. Um, my psychological was just so out of whack. So I had to, so as I started healing those things, though, facing those things and getting those things back in alignment, my body just naturally wanted to start taking care of itself. It started wanting to move more. It started wanting to get up and go outside more. It started wanting to, it didn't want to deal with um, the nasty feeling of eating artificial foods. You know, it wanted something cleaner. It wanted something more enjoyable to not just my taste buds, but more enjoyable in its digestion through my system. You know, my body didn't no longer want it to hurt itself in the way of ingesting toxins and poisons. It wanted something cleaner. So like I was just naturally um, attracted to taking care of myself physically, but only because I've been focusing on healing mentally and emotionally. Um, that's what I say, because for 4 or 5 years, I only focused on the physical, and it was nothing but a fucking roller coaster ride. But as soon as I started targeting my mental and emotional, everything's just been smooth sailing. Everything's just been falling right into place. Everything's been much easier. Nothing's really had to been forced. And that's the thing we don't want to force, you know. Um, Now, is there a time and place for forcing? Yes. You know, having to kickstart that discipline and such, yes. But, you know, not to the point where you're beating the fuck out of yourself with shame and guilt because you can't stay consistent and this and that. You're just creating a much more toxic environment for yourself. Um, you start becoming your own abuser in another way. All right, so yeah, if you do break a fast, eat cleanly. At least don't ingest toxins and poisons. Eat raw, eat whole foods, chew a bite thoroughly, and not just wolfing it down. It's about building that discipline to show respect and love to ourselves. Fasting should not be forced, but happen naturally. Yeah, I said all that. Um, so my question for you is, what type of foods do you normally crave? You know, this is important before even trying to fast. What have you been eating? Um, what what type of foods do you normally crave? When you cave into a craving, do you indulge, overconsume on toxic foods or natural foods? Honestly, what has your diet journey been like? What have you been eating cooked, processed, packaged food, or have you been on a whole food whole foods diet of fruits and veggies and nuts? When did you start to implement fasting into your life? When you crave, do you feel it's coming from needing a dopamine hit, a distraction, a comfort? Have you noticed as to what leads to your craving, as in what's happening prior before a craving comes? Were you feeling uneasy right before the craving? Yeah, were you feeling uneasy right before the craving? Were you feeling emotional before a craving? Did emotions drive you to having a craving? You know, those are things to think about. Very important things to think about. She responds, "Thank you for the insightful response. It's embarrassing and hard for me to admit, but my diet has been absolute trash. Fast food, processed, and cooked food." So see right there, that tells me a lot. Um, you, right there, you should not be fasting at all. Um, Now see, I don't eating one time a day, I don't even necessarily count that as fasting, right? It's such a short period, like compared to the fasted state we're supposed to be in. But is it fasting? Yes. I just call it, you know, eating one meal a day. I don't even say it's intermittent fasting or anything like that. I just say I'm eating one meal a day. Um, But yeah, her diet's been absolute trash. It's been full of fast food, processed and cooked. Most of the fast food is due to not having enough time with work. Kids going to school, having to clean the house, get ready for the next day, rinse and repeat. I've tried incorporating healthy foods here and there. It is also hard due to financial reasons. For the past couple months or so, I've been finding myself turned off from food. Even before I attempted to get back into healing, I've noticed I've been more turned off by meat as well. I only want to eat when my stomach is growling and I experience overwhelming hunger pains. When I attempted the fasting with pumpkin seeds, I did notice that when I would feel anxiety, my stomach would growl more, which is weird because I always felt like my anxiety would cause me to have less of an appetite. Recently, I craved Subway and caved. I ate it 2 days in a row and now I feel extreme depression and shame because of it. Also, after eating it, I saw how fatigued it made me. Then I'm hungry again a couple hours later. Alright, so let's dissect that. It's embarrassing and hard to admit, but my diet has been absolute trash. Fast food, processed and cooked. So, um, most of the fast food is due to not having enough time with work, kids going to school, having to clean the house, get ready. So look, people people's thought process is that eating Whole Foods diet is very expensive, and that you're gonna have to cook all your meals, but that's not it. You can make the diet Whole Foods diet expensive. You can make a plant-based diet expensive by buying the plant-based alternative meats and all the other products. Of course that will be expensive. Think of it in the other way. You can make eating eating cooked food, processed food expensive by going to an expensive restaurant, by buying the highest quality or highest quality meat. You can make that expensive, or you can make it inexpensive by choosing by going to fast food. Fast food is the cheapest way of, well, I don't even know anymore. I hear that shit is expensive as fuck. But yeah, you know what I mean? Like, you can make whatever diet you're on expensive or inexpensive depending on where you go and where you get your food. And so like me on a plant-based diet, I do not recommend any of the processed food. I do not recommend any of the plant-based alternatives. I've never eaten the fake meat. I've never eaten any of that. Um, Me going on a Whole Foods diet, I literally buy celery, cucumbers, fruit. I mean, right here she's saying fast food is due to not having enough time. But how hard is it to peel an orange? How hard is it to just take an apple out of the bag you got it in and bite into it? How hard is it to, you know what I'm saying? It's not, how hard is it to slice up some cucumbers? You don't even need to slice up. You can just eat it like that. So there's it's very simple. Eating Whole Foods is very simple, and it can be very inexpensive, um, by buying just fruits and veggies and nuts just the way they are. And when you eat raw, you no longer have to cook, so you save a lot of time. You no longer have to buy seasonings and 20 different ingredients to just make one thing. you know so it can be very easy. um, so yeah, which I go into my next comment. um, I've tried incorporating healthy foods here and there. It is also hard due to financial reasons. See there again. Um, you know, and that's the other thing. Eating healthy does not mean buying organic. Organic is a bullshit fucking label. It is complete fucking bullshit. Just take the whole organic. If you're buying organic, yeah, it's fucking expensive, but don't buy the organic. And see, and when you do that, subconsciously, don't be worrying that you didn't buy the organic. When you're eating, be like, man, I probably could have got organic. you know your mindset is so huge. If you're stressing out because what you're eating isn't organic, then you might as well buy the organic because it's going to make you feel more at ease. But the reality of it, fuck organic. You know, I don't when it comes to shopping at a grocery store, I don't look at organic and non-organic. I see it as just the same, other than the price difference. So I buy the cheapest option. Now, when the warmer season comes around, the majority of my groceries I buy on farms. See, that's what I would call organic. I would call I would call grocery stores non-organic, and then buying straight from a farmer organic. That's the difference, I would say. But no, when it comes to the grocery store and there's the same company and their same flavor apple and one's organic and the other one isn't, get the cheapest one. And don't beat yourself up. Don't freak out about it. Don't worry about it. Look, if you're already eating fast food, cooked food, processed food, artificial food, and you're worried about when you eat fruits and veggies if they're organic, like that just doesn't make any sense. At least eating the non-organic fruit and veggie is going to be way better than what you've been eating, which is fast food, processed food, cooked food. You know, so because I used to be stuck in that too, and it just made sense. Well, because also when I became vegan, just not eating meat, people were like, well, all your plants and veggies are highly contaminated and this and that, and I'm like, well, the meat is too. But what's the better option? The better option is still the fruits and veggies, and it's a much less chemical process than when it comes to meat and packaged food and laboratory zapped food and factory made food. Okay, yes, I understand. My fruits and veggies are chemically engineered and this and that, but it is still so much healthier, has much more hydration, has much more electricity in it than that dead ass food that has been sitting in a package for 6 months, than that meat that was majorly preserved in order to stay red and look clean and not stink. Because see, for meat, before it even gets on your shelf, it takes a month at least. It takes a month to get to your shelf. What happens when you kill an animal? As soon as you kill an animal, that meat starts to rot. So just think of all the preserving it takes to keep that meat from rotting, stinking, and smelling. I mean, they dump that shit in all kinds of stuff. I'd have to watch that documentary again of how they preserve meat in order to get it onto your shelf and keep it looking red, and it's so much goes into it. It is fucking gross. It is fucking gross. It totally turned me off from ever, not just saying fuck meat in a grocery store and going and killing my own game. No, I don't want meat at all. Yeah. So, but yeah, just so eating meat from the store is just complete fucking trash. Um, yeah. So yeah, the whole financial thing. Look, you can make it expensive. You can make eating plant-based and whole foods expensive, or you can make it cheap. You know, it's up to you. And there's choices, there's options for both, for expensive or inexpensive. Same with the diet you're already on. You have a choice to you have the option of going expensive or inexpensive. So there's no need to worry about financial, and also there's no need to worry about not having enough time. Like I said, how hard is it to peel an orange? How hard is and look, there's no having to clean dishes when you're eating raw. There's no needing to have to clean dishes. There's no needing to have to be constipated all the time and sitting on the toilet for 20 minutes. There's so much that goes into it. You're not dealing with the consequences of feeling like shit, especially if you're shaming and guilting yourself constantly. You're no longer having to deal with that, as you're starting to make better choices for yourself, which makes you feel proud that you had the discipline to do so. So much changes and the time adds up. People think, oh, fast food is quick. Yeah, but how long are you spending on the toilet and how many times a day? the driving to get there, just so much goes into it. The feeling, the the lack of energy you have, the and fast food is actually more expensive because, like she said, within a couple hours, I'm hungry again. So, okay, yeah, your meal was only $5, but how many times are you spending $5 in the day? You know, and it adds up. So that's what I'm saying. So yeah, she says for the past couple months, been finding myself turned off from food even before I attempted to get back into healing. I've noticed I've been more turned off by meat as well. I only want to eat when my stomach is growling and I experience overwhelming hunger pains. So, see, that's the thing. You're going into fasting way too fucking quick. Don't worry about fasting. Switch. Don't worry about eating all day either. Switch to a whole foods diet, a plant-based diet, and eat fruit throughout the day. I'm not saying overindulge, and maybe that's what you have to do. Maybe you have to eat a bunch of fruit and overindulge for a little bit to get your body readjusted, and just used to eating fruit and used to eating veggies. Um, but yeah, this, you got too much toxicity inside to be trying to go straight into fasting and expecting to feel good or anything, or expecting to keep it consistent. There's so much going on that needs to be addressed before, fasting is like level 100 and you're at level 5. You shouldn't even be thinking about fasting right now. But then again, like, you're fine if you're eating 2 meals a day, 1 meal a day. Like I said, I don't even call that fasting. I just say that's my routine, eating 1 meal a day, 2 meals a day. But maybe you just need to start with um, just switching to eating whole foods, natural foods, and eating them throughout the entire day. Anytime you get a craving, eat some. Even though that's not a good practice, but still, it's just where you're at right now. And it's just going to make things easy and simple, and not feel like you're forcing anything. Because I'm telling you, just because you're eating fast food, cooked food, processed food once and twice a day, and you're kind of happy because at least you're only eating 1 meal a day, switching that, um, switching to whole foods, but eating it, not getting any of that fasting time in, but you're eating throughout the day, that's going to be better than eating fast food, cooked food, processed food 1 meal a day. That fasting isn't doing anything if you're ingesting toxins and poison still every day. So you gotta switch that diet and get used to eating that food. And um yeah, so when I attempted the fasting with pumpkin seeds, I did notice that when I would feel anxiety, my stomach would growl more. I ate 2 days in a row, and I feel, yeah, and that's the thing. Like, we know that these things aren't healthy. Like, she craved Subway, and she caved, and she ate that for 2 days straight. And we know it's not right, but why do we keep doing it? So there's something that we have to face. Um, because she does something that she knows she's not supposed to do, and she feels extreme depression and shame because of it. But for some reason, the the pleasure that you get, the excitement, the the stimulation you get from that 15 minutes of consuming those toxins and poisons are are worth the depression and the shame and the guilt and the consequences of feeling like shit afterwards for a day, 2 days. Like, isn't that so weird? Like, what is that? So revert back. Why do I want this? What will happen if I don't cave into this craving? And that's what we need to face. That's what we need to experience. That's where we need to be courageous. That's where we need to be heroic, is to sit with those feelings, sit with that uneasiness and anxiety with not caving into our addictions and our habits. Look, not caving into eating Subway isn't going to make you malnourished. When you're craving Subway, eat an apple, eat an orange, eat some grapes, eat some strawberries, make a smoothie, you know, eat some watermelon, you know, that you'll still go through the craving. Maybe usually those things take away the craving, but that craving will keep coming back, and it's sitting with those things. It's teaching your body, because see, what I saw was my body when I went on raw diet. I started learning the difference between, I started to be able to see the difference between hunger and cravings, because I would come straight home after working all day. I was still eating one meal a day, and at work I'd just be craving so heavily for cooked food. But I'd get home and the first thing I'd make is a smoothie. And as soon as I would drink that smoothie, those cravings went away, because I was confusing the craving. I was confusing what my body was asking for. I was thinking it just wanted to eat, but really it was just asking for hydration. When I gave it what it actually wanted versus what I was addicted to. Because see, if I came home and I ate cooked food, I would, as soon as I eat that cooked food, I would immediately be craving hydration. But instead, now eating on that raw diet, instead of going into cooked dry food, I went straight to hydration. And when I drank that hydration, immediately my body didn't crave dry food. My body didn't crave cooked food, processed food, artificial food, because that's what it actually wanted. It wanted some life. It wanted electricity. It wanted hydration. It wanted real nourishment, you know. So yeah, you gotta, like, why do I put myself through this suffering? Why am I addicted to suffering? Why am I addicted to constantly being in depression and shaming and guilting myself? It's a whole emotional and mental thing that we have to face. Yeah, so, but yeah, she says after that, also after eating it, after eating the Subway, I saw how fatigued it made me. Then I'm hungry again every couple of hours. Eat my Subway, within the next 2 hours, hungry again. After eating, next 2 hours, hungry again. That's what I'm saying. See, so switch that with fruit, switch that with veggies. I honestly wouldn't recommend eating nuts, because nuts is like a snack. It's very easy to get caught up in the nuts. But if you are craving a snack, eat some nuts, unsalted and unroasted. Now, if you can't get it unroasted because most of the nuts are roasted, who cares? Fine, eat the roasted, but stay away from the salt. The salt really dehydrates our body. We do not need salt at all. Um, so yeah. Oh, I didn't write a comment. I put it on my notes actually. So I didn't send it to her because I was like, I'm just gonna make this into um, I'm just gonna make this into a video. Here. Notes. Where are my notes? Where are my notes? Okay. Oh, okay. Um, yeah, so this is what I was writing her. The relationship with food is so toxic. We know it hurts us, but we do it anyway for the pleasure of it. I've come to the sense of, are the hours and days of consequences really worth the 10, 15 minutes of taste bud pleasure? Buying Whole Foods is actually very cheap. Considering feeling satisfied with less and feeling fuller longer. Going plant-based is only expensive when buying plant-based alternatives like the fake meat and other products, which I would never recommend buying, as that stuff is full of chemicals and highly processed. I keep it simple by buying fruit and veggies I can eat raw. Some snacky things I use to make. Alright, so I'll give you some recipes. Guacamole, making your own homemade guacamole. I use avocados, lime, cilantro, and red onion. Only 4 fucking ingredients. No salt, lime, avocado, cilantro, a lot of cilantro, and and red onion. Red onion is very flavorful for guacamole, and trust me on that recipe, because I got that from my Hispanic side of my family, and you already know they know how to make some good guac. So yeah, I got the guac recipe down, but that is very, very tasty, very nourishing, very yummy, very fulfilling, and it's raw. You don't have to cook anything. Even eating avocados in just the raw state. I loved eating avocados like a fucking apple, and I would just peel the whole thing and eat it like an apple. Um, with your avocado, with your guacamole, see, everybody thinks, well, I have to dip and scoop something. You can just eat it with a spoon. But if you do want to dip something in it, use mushrooms. I love eating mushrooms raw. Use mushrooms to scoop it up. Use anything, a carrot, a cauliflower, anything, you know. So that my other very tasty snack, and it's one even my all my siblings love, is I would slice up cucumbers either thin or thick, and I would put it in a container, laying it flat, and squeeze mini limes and let it soak in the limes. Now, you don't have to have the lime juice over the cucumbers. It can be, you know, you'll figure it out as you play with it, but you don't need like a whole container full of lime juice and be using 20 limes. Like, but yeah, I would use limes, and look, limes have a lot of juice. Fucking make sure you're squeezing every single bit of it out, you know, and to get the most out of it, so you're not using a bunch. And yeah, but I would squeeze lime juice, and usually letting it sit for like a couple hours and then eating it, very good. But letting it marinate for like a day or 2 days, that's amazing. Um, so I would do that. But I would also, whenever I wanted a different flavor, see, I was doing this when I was eating raw. I've actually been eating that my whole life, but when I was eating raw, I started craving like some spice and such, so I would use red hot salsa, which I wouldn't suggest using because of all the salt. Instead, I would think of like chopping up peppers, poblanos, or any type of spicy peppers, and maybe putting those in there, or making your own salsa, you know. Um, which you can do. You can make your own salsas, and and there's so much you can do with raw food and very cheap. Um, so yeah, things like that. Um, Now, if you want to cook for your kids, spaghetti squash is a great one. Spaghetti squash, even a small one, comes with so much quantity, and you can make a spaghetti sauce and put it on the spaghetti squash. You can make a gravy, like I used to make mushroom gravy, and I would put the mushroom gravy on the spaghetti squash. You know, there's a lot of squashes you can make dishes with, like roasting potatoes. Roasting potatoes. Um, I like um, I like doing tomato and a whole bulb of garlic and onion, and putting in tinfoil, heating that up, and letting it marinate, or pot, putting it in a pot and letting it marinate like that, and letting that be the sauce to dip on, to use for potatoes. Like, you can use potatoes for so many dishes and as alternatives to meat and such. Um, Mixing potatoes with other veggies like tomatoes, and man, I used to have so many recipes, but I just, you know, I'm not gonna eat that anymore, so I kind of just forget about it. But yeah, you know, so there's so much creativity that can go into it, or just simplicity in it with just eating the fruit and veggies raw, or, you know, or just soaking them in lime, or squeezing some lemon on them, or, you know, things like that, or slicing a piece of a pepper and putting it on top of something and eating it, you know. So there's that. Very easy. I mean, it really doesn't take much time. Um, yeah. Yeah, so I go here, I say some snacky things I used to make was soaking cucumber in a container of squeezed lime for a day, and even adding spice at times with peppers or like red hot sauce. Um, which, like I said, I wouldn't suggest eating the hot sauce because of the salt. But then again, look at your diet already. It's not. It's still an improvement on your diet. So on your current diet anyway. So who cares? Eat the sauce. You know, at least you're not eating all the other toxic shit. At least you're only eating one toxic shit, and it's just because of the salt. Um, I would also make my own homemade guac that is completely raw, no salt, and only 4 or 5 ingredients. Which you can add more ingredients to it, do whatever, but just don't cook anything. Don't add salt. Don't add, you know, there's no need for seasonings. Play with herbs. You know, put different herbs in there. Put different types of onions in there. You know, maybe you want to try a sweet onion instead of a red onion. You know, just play with it. Um, there's so much you can do with raw fruits and veggies. It's also quick and easy as you're eating them in the raw state. But even for the kids, baking spaghetti squash, that was my favorite. I Instead of like rice, I would always make spaghetti squash and then make another dish with it. But like, because that was a while ago, um, I would make chicken thighs and bacon wrapped chicken thighs and eat that with my spaghetti squash with mushroom gravy. You know, I would do a lot of different things with the spaghetti squash, even making like spaghetti and using the spaghetti squash as a replacement for the noodles. You know, things like that. And you know, so there's a lot of things you can do for your kids without. Um, and the spaghetti squash is so easy. You literally cut it in half, put oil or butter on it, place it in the oven at like 350, 375 for 40, 45 minutes, so you don't have to do anything. And you let it bake until it's soft enough to sort of poke through. You take it out, let it sit for a few minutes because that motherfucker will be hot, so you don't, it's kind of hard to hold on to scoop everything out. But let it cool down, scoop everything out, and you can really just eat it like that. Spaghetti squash is so flavorful by itself. So, um, but you know, if in the meantime, while that's in the oven, you can whip up a little thing to add on top, add to the side, whatever. And by the time the spaghetti squash is done, that little thing will be done, and you can serve it to your kids like that. So yeah, a lot of things. Um, but yeah, so that is my advice. You know, it really seen before you start fasting, before you even focus on fasting, before dealing with all the shame and guilt for not being able to stay consistent in fasting. Let's revert back a little bit. Let's start with eating cleaner. Let's start with not always falling into our addictions and our desires. You know, let's each time those addictions and desires come in, instead of eating that, we eat an apple, we eat fruit, we eat veggies, you know, and you're teaching yourself. Not only are you teaching yourself, but you're seeing that, oh, because you're going to have those cravings and addictions or desires, and you're going to see once you eat a piece of fruit, that's all your body wanted was hydration. It didn't actually, you're just so used to labeling that hunger or identifying satisfying that hunger with cooked food, with processed food, with fast food, with artificial food. So so you'll see, like, as you start eating something healthier, or as you eat something healthy rather than unhealthy, um, you will see that your body was just asking for hydration. Your body was just asking for, you know what I'm saying? So I would say let your focus be eating clean food. See how long you can go without eating fast food. See how long you can go without eating cooked food. You know, and I'm telling you, the first 2 weeks are always the hardest because it's such an addiction. You're going to go through withdrawals. So that's why it is fine eating your fruit throughout the entire day, because eventually it's going to come a time where, you know, your body's just going to continue to adjust and things are going to shift. So you got to be comfortable. You got to be fine with changing your lifestyle up of because like we feel so proud because, oh, I eat one meal a day, but look at the meal you're eating. I would be more proud saying, oh, I haven't eaten fast food, cooked food, processed food in a year. Yeah, I eat all day, but at least it's fruit. At least it's healthy stuff. At least I'm not putting toxins and poison, addicted to putting toxins and poisons in my body. So you see what I mean? And but yeah, I would focus on just eating cleaner, and as you're able to sustain with that, as you're able to control yourself and have that self-discipline, and build on that for a month or a couple months, then I would start, trying to start doing something else. I would definitely recommend getting a juicer. See, yeah, well, you've already watched the video, peanut butter pancakes, but trying to fast while you have all those toxins, see, is really bad. Is not healthy because you can actually hurt yourself. And that's what I mean. We have to take unnatural procedures because of all the unnatural habits we've acquired. So it takes unnatural procedures to fix ourselves. Fasting would have worked a lot easier 50 years ago, but now with all the toxicity and all the artificial and all the chemicals we ingest and the massive amounts we ingest from day one of being born, you know, we have to take a certain procedure. We can't just go. Fasting is too extreme for us now. You know, it's it wouldn't be if we didn't have to participate in these stressful environments. If we were in a safe space and we weren't obligated to meet demands and pay bills and do all this. But in order to continue functioning in our society, fasting is not going to be the way. You're going to be it is going to drive you nuts trying to fast and heal, yet participate in society with all the stressors, all the demands, all the unnecessary bullshit, with all the toxicity, with all the stimulation, with all the stressors, you know. So and fasting, what fasting does, it does break down those toxins in the mucoid plaque, but the thing is, fasting doesn't excrete it. The juicing excretes it. The juicing pulls it out. It magnetizes to those toxins and pulls those toxins out. So that's why I'm on the juicing, and that's why I stopped fasting. I'm I'm juicing to get as much, to get that cesspool that's in my, because our colon and our intestines can hold up to 25 plus pounds of waste. And so um, and trying to fast with that waste sitting in you, yes, fasting will break it down, but it breaks it down and it keeps it in your blood system, and so we need a way to excrete that, um, which fasting does excrete it, but just at a slow rate. So when you're juicing, the juicing not only breaks it down because of its charge, its polar opposite, its opposite charge of what the toxins are charged at. So toxins are positively charged, the juice is negatively charged. It breaks it down, it pulls it out, and it runs it out of your system. And you won't deal with major detox. You will deal with detox symptoms, but nothing as major as fasting, and fasting with those toxins in you. So, and look, I'm not saying that juicing is the end all be all. I'm just trying to get that majority of the toxins out of my body, and then when that plaque gets out of my body, then I will start fasting to get the deeper healing, the healing which pulls the toxins and chemicals out of my bones and out of my tissues, you know, that will get it out of my muscles. That's where the fasting does the deeper penetration. Right now, I got to focus on what can be targeted now, which is that mucoid plaque, that cesspool of chemicals and toxins. And so the juicing will do that, and then eventually I'll get to the point where I can start fasting. When I get that out of the way, when I get that blockage out of the way, then I can focus on what's in my bones, what's in my muscles, what's in my tissues, what's in my brain, you know, and start rejuvenating those things, because that's where fasting will, yeah. So you know, very happy for you, very appreciate it that you hit me up, and I appreciate it that you allowed me to make this video, because hopefully, you know, it's a very common thing, what you're speaking about. It's stuff I went through, trying to push, trying to go to level 100 while I'm at level 5, you know, things like that. um, and yeah, feel free to hit me up at any time, um, if you like. um, I can give you my email, and from there we can talk more privately, and I'll, you know, I'll support you along your journey for sure. Um, yeah. So appreciate it, Peanut Butter Pancakes. Thanks for inspiring this video, and everybody enjoy.